Hey everybody, welcome to our flipped lesson here in Unit 3. You can see I'm Mr. Dow. For those of you Dragon Ball fans, I've gone Super Saiyan here.
And I'm Mrs. Newman. We co-teach lots of our different algebra classes.
And so we're going to be talking about comparing linear functions to understand their relationships.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about lines. We've learned what lines are, about the slopes of lines, how to graph lines, and so far everything we've covered relates to individual lines. So only one line. In these notes, we're going to be focusing on how lines relate to each other.
Right? So mostly in pairs. In the simplest terms, two lines, if we put them on the same coordinate plane, can really only do one of two things. They can either intersect or be non-intersecting. I know that's deep, but try and stay with us here. When we talk about these two categories, there are three relationships that lines can have within these two categories. The first relationship is
single intersection, where the lines cross only in one spot.
Yeah, just like these roads down below have one intersection there.
They could be coinciding, where they intersect at every single point.
Right, we can see this road down below. This happens every time, guys. I'm sorry, I don't know what to do to get rid of it. But, as we were saying, we can see down below that road has two different names because it's two different roads, but they literally are right on top of each other, so they are the same road. And
the last type of relationship is parallel, where they never intersect, go on forever and ever and ever, and will never cross.
Right, and you can see there's no way that a car could be on both of those roads at the same time because there's no intersection there. So now that we've talked about our relationships and our categories, let's dive right in here. So the first category we're going to talk about is our intersecting lines. And our first relationship is the single intersection. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some lines that have a single intersection and talk about some qualities about them which makes them intersect only once. So go ahead and find the slope of each of those lines. Pause the video and come back in just a second or two. Ready? Pause. Okay, what'd you get? Hopefully you found that the slope of the black line was 10 over 3 and the slope of the red line was 5 over 6. And what do we notice about those two slopes?
So we see that the lines will intersect exactly once if the slopes of the lines are different. Like, we're different.
Yeah.
Pretty
awesome. So we see that. So let's talk about our second relationship for intersecting lines, and that's our coinciding. See? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So what we want you to do now is to find the slope of the green line and the slope of the yellow line. Take a moment, stop the video, and we'll come back.
Pause. And welcome back.
Hopefully you found that the slope of each of those lines was -1 over 3.
So now we also want you to find the y-intercept of each line. So pause the video, quick, and then find that and come right back. What'd you get here? Hopefully you found they're both 0, 3. So we notice the slopes and the y-intercepts of our lines
they're exactly the same. Our slope is the same and our y-intercept is the same.
Right. So we can see this is the quality of coinciding lines. We've got one more relationship to look at, and that's in our non-intersecting lines category, and that's our parallel lines. There are other relationships that parallel lines can have, or that non-intersecting lines can have, but the only one we're going to focus on here is parallel.
We'll get to those later.
In geometry. But let's do the same thing. Let's have you find the slopes and the y-intercepts of each of these lines. So pause the video, find the slope, find the y-intercept. Ready? Pause. Okay, let's see what you got here. Hopefully you notice that the slopes are the same, but
that our y-intercepts are different. For the maroon line, you should have gotten 0 and about 1.5, and for the purple line, you should have gotten the coordinates being 0 and -10.
So what we see here is that just like coinciding lines, parallel lines' slopes are exactly the same, but what makes them different is that the y-intercepts are different. So we've now looked at some qualities of our three relationships of lines. So let's kind of sum it up here in a table, take all the information we've had and put it together for ourselves. So for our single intersection,
we're going to have different slopes.
For our coinciding lines,
we'll have same slope and same y-intercept.
And for our parallel lines,
slopes are the same, but the y-intercepts are going to be different.
Right. So what we're going to do now, guys, is have you apply this knowledge. we're going to be giving you pairs of functions, pairs of lines, but not the graphs. And we're going to expect you to be able to determine with the information we gave you whether they're parallel, intersecting, or coinciding.
So remember, we're looking specifically at the slopes of the two lines and the y-intercepts.
So go ahead, pause the video, try these four, and we'll talk about them. Ready, pause. Let's see how you did. Notice 1 and 2 are a single intersection because the slopes are different. So I know it's complicated, but the slopes are different. 3 is parallel because the slopes are the same, but the y-intercepts are different. And 4 is coinciding because the slopes and the y-intercepts are the same. Hopefully you're understanding this now. Let's get a little bit more practice, okay? Here are 8 more to give a shot. So pause the video and give it a try. Welcome back.
Okay, so now let's take a look. We see that 1 and 6 are parallel, and that's because they have the exact same slope and a different y-intercept. Number 2, 4, 5, and 8 are all single intersections. The only thing we're worried about here is that the slope is different. And then finally, we've got number 3 and 7 that are coinciding. You'll notice that the slopes are the same and the y-intercepts are the same.
Right. And the only thing we didn't ask of you here, guys, was to be rewriting any of these equations, which in your homework, when you come to class and work on it, we are going to be able to ask you to rewrite some of the equations into slope-intercept form before you can determine the slope and the y-intercept. But we already have that skill, and as long as you've got what we've got here, you should be golden.
Right. So remember, when we're going to decide whether the lines are parallel, intersecting, or coinciding, we need to be in slope-intercept form. So if you're not there, go ahead and get to slope-intercept form.
And that brings us to the end. Hopefully you learned something and you had a little bit of fun. And maybe got a little bit of hairstyling ideas. We'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.
Peace.